Hi guys, you're in the right place if you want to learn how to draw by understanding what you're looking at rather than breaking things down into shapes. And today we're going to do this little Sanderling. It's a type of sandpiper. So you need your scrap piece of paper and a pen that's going to cooperate for you, hopefully not be too blotchy. So just while you're getting organized, I just want to talk a little bit about this bird. So these guys are they're shorebirds, and they have a fairly sturdy long bill because when the wave comes up on the shore and goes back, there's all these little insects that are disturbed by the water flow, and these guys run along on the shore and they eat the little insects. So it's very typical that his toes are covered by the sand. Even when they're running along, they sink into the sand a little bit because that's right where the edge of the wave is. Their body is quite. Look at his knobby little knees. That's also very typical. So they have this cute little uh, oval shaped body, and that looks actually quite heavy, and then these skinny little stilt legs, and they run like stink. But anyway, I've always loved sandpipers, so let's do our best to do a good job on this guy. I think he's going to be a little bit tricky, just but I thought it was such a great shot because it, they typically have a little bit of length to their neck, which we don't see because of the angle. And then his heavy body facing us, all this, see this beautiful pattern on his back. These are obviously his wings folded in. It doesn't even look like he's got wings. They're short. They flap really quickly. Take a lot of effort to fly because most of their time is spent running along the shore. Okay, so I'm sure by now you're all set up. So for the way you start on your paper, we have to be careful, I think, not, and yes, I'm talking to myself. So, Elaine, please make sure. Look at the size of his body compared to his head. All right? So, if you don't have a great big huge piece of paper, we got to be careful to not get carried away and make the head too big, because then we're going to be stuck drawing this huge oval for his body. Okay? So let's just think about where, and with his balance, you know what? I'm going to go this way. See if I can do that instead. And it's going to force me to be short, but I'm going to have a little bit more space this way. So let's start with, we want to leave a fairly good space here for the weight of his bill, but let's just start a little bit at the, let's just start by getting our pen working. A little space, little curve off the bill, and this forehead goes up, not too big, please. And then the feathers kind of crest there, and we're already at the top of his head. And then the little angle back of his eye, this little bump right here. And we'll just try to keep our angles not too screwed up and not too sharp. And then we're going to curve this back around to the back of his head. It's going to blend into the back of his neck here. We're going to leave a fairly thick space here. Don't worry if you go too wide, because this really is a heavy bill. And we're going to take this angle straight back because he's got his head turned toward us. So we want to have this sharp angle for his throat, and it's going to bump right into the curve of his back. Now, see how large his eye is? So watch your spacing. Go go in, just choose your spacing carefully based on what you've outlined for his head. This large eye to see all the little insects that are mixed up with the waves. So they come in and out on the shore. And since he's looking at us, let's leave this white dot, the reflection of the curve of the eyeball. Leave that toward the front. Of his eyeball. Now, see this downward angle for his bill? If we can sort of get something similar to that, it does really show the sort of the attitude of his head. And if you can see this little notch at the end from the upper bill to the lower bill, get something like that in. It's okay if you don't. We can make this heavier and longer if you need to. The feathers come off the face. I'm probably going to lengthen this and narrow it out a little bit more. And we can, with our shading, later on, we're going to be able to get this. Okay. So, now if we come off the throat at a nice sharp angle, I'm going to make that a little bit sharper actually. I really want to show the turn of his head. And then here we have, this is his shoulder right here. Upper back is right here. It's coming right off his shoulder. So we want to have this, look at this space between his upper back and his eye. So we want to have that a nice kind of like tight space, because that's what shows the angle and the curve of his head. And then this comes right out to his shoulder, off his shoulder. And then it cuts back. This is the outer body and all the muscles for the wings. And then the upper back blends into that. And then here we got the back of the neck. And this is his upper back. This little curve right here is his upper back. And see how this angle comes out? So I really want you to push that out, because that'll show. Turn your paper if you need to. I need to, but I don't want to like screw it up. And then see this bump? This is his upper back here, and this bump right here, this is his wing. And this little dot here is ink from my calligraphy that I got onto my tablet. And we want the curve of his wing on his back, and see, look at this curve down here. So just try to pay attention to your angles. And if you make him stubby in the body, that's totally okay. We'll drop this down to his leg. Now, from where his eye is, see how his legs are are on the right of this. So that's only because of like the angle, and if it doesn't work out so well for your own sketch, don't worry about it. Just do what works best for what you've sketched out. I mean, honestly, how many times do our sketches end up like not looking too similar at all to what's going on in the photograph? I want to do, I think this should be out a little bit further. One skinny little leg. And please give him a great big knobby knee. These little legs kick back and forth quite actively when they're running along the shore. Which is kind of my way of saying it can't be too knobby. It's okay if you kind of overdo it. And then this, like here, it's a bit of an angle. And then we've got the back of the joint. And then the front of the joint here. And then his feet into the sand. Off the back. Curve down. I'd like this angle to be a little bit steeper. You know, I think I've ended up doing his head a bit too small. I feel like that's the first time I've actually listened to myself. There's some loose feathers here. A little dovetail where the feathers all at the bum, the back of the body, come together. I'm just fiddling with some of my outside curves, as you can tell. This I made, this I should have dropped more. I really like what I did there. Now, what I'd like you to do is just put in a jagged border here, off his shoulder, and off the chest, and keep good spacing here. Don't take these feathers too low, because all the markings with the feathers are in the wing. Wings. A little awkward on my angle. We just want to make sure that, gosh, I was so happy with this photo that I think I didn't actually think about how we're going to do all this mess here. I think we should just put in some V's. Make them a little bit wider. I don't know what the effect is going to be, if this is going to be looking too silly. Wouldn't be the first time. We've ended up silly. Let's do something simple now with just the shading on his white tummy and his white bum. We just want to break up these feathers a little bit by his legs. And we know he's shaded underneath. Now, okay, don't think I'm a weirdo, but I do want to ask, are you smiling? Is there tension in your hand? Because I was thinking, we want to be a little bit more cognizant about making sure that everybody is enjoying this process. Because I know in the past, I've had so much anxiety isn't the right word, but just like my level of concentration and whatnot, clenching my jaw and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want us to have our time together like that. So now, and I've sort of learned this from the lady who I follow for my yoga sessions. She's like, breathe. And I'm thinking, oh, that's really good advice for me to have on my tutorials. So right now, I just want to make sure that you are, okay, let's do this white feather here. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to just, don't color his legs solid, just leave a little gap, okay? Just bust it up a little bit, and that's going to show that we've got a white feather on covering his leg, and then just shade in the joint. But it's true. I want you to be relaxed, enjoy our time together, and that means taking a second to make sure you're not clenching your hand. You've got your pen nice and loose. And if you want to be fancy, leave some lighter parts in his leg that are coming toward us and catching the light. You can be fancy. And I just want us to enjoy our time together. No stress. Do the best you can. Honestly, working with a pen in your hand, your brain is already saying thank you. So it's already a win, no matter what your little Sanderling ends up looking like. I want to just fix up the back of this joint a little bit better. Okay, so see how small the head is? Like, I don't like this at all. So now it's time to actually do our fixing. Well, I'm speaking for myself. Yours is probably in pretty good shape. It's my pen that's a little bit blotchy right there. That's okay. Can pretend that he's captured a little bug. Nice heavy bill, please. Not too, maybe not as heavy as what I've done though. But if you have gone too heavy, what you can do is just make his head a little bit bigger. Balance it all out. Okay, so now what I want to do is just make everything a little bit more. I'm going to come off his forehead and go up a little bit higher. I can take this back a little bit more and sharpen this curve down at the back of his head that goes along his back here. And then that'll help. Now, with the eye, if you could please darken up the actual eyeball itself. And this will be our starting point because we're going to work out from that. And then leave a little bit of a white, leave some space in front of the eye. Give him his eyebrow. And the white space underneath. He does have a fairly distinct eye ring. Doesn't quite go all the way around, but it can in your sketch, so don't worry about it. And then we'll just darken in front of the eye. And it's okay if you want to keep it broken with the different, to sort of show the different shades of brown. And the little white feathers on the face and whatnot. Gosh, what was I thinking choosing a bird with all these markings? But anyway, we hadn't done a shorebird yet, so it's something a little different. So break it up and just use kind of like heavy pressure in small areas to give the impression of the dark brown. And then what we can do is very carefully go through with our shading. So we're kind of getting like the dark brown randomness down first. And while you're at it, you can do a little bit darker around his eye with the dark brown. Breathe. She really is fabulous, this yoga person. I'm sure you know exactly who I'm talking about because she's got like 13.4 million followers. That'll be Simply Draw someday, right, you guys? So just use heavy pressure, lots of little dots. It's all good. Just to kind of show his markings. More of a curve right there. I want to have this a little bit darker. Try not to make this a curve, okay? I do want it broken up. Plain, 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 and plain. I've got a little bit more darker on his cheek too, okay? And if you're happy with that, then we can just shade it a little bit for to represent like the lighter tan. Nice light pressure. See what I'm doing? Nice light pressure. Bring this in a little bit. A little bit closer to the eye. If your eye ring is too big, tone it down a little bit. And then carry that little bit of the darkness underneath the eye and around at the back where his eyebrow. So I'm giving him a little bit of the character there. And then some shading under his throat, please. And then I want to have better definition where the feathers of the face bump into the bill. And we can just like pick that up a little bit. Let's go back. These feathers come out. I think I could have done better with if the angle. I don't know. Like it's not too bad with the angle there. Now, what are we going to do with the mess of his back? And see, like from the eye to the back of the head, if you're happy with that, and then this width here, this is the top of his back. I think what I want to do is take this out just a smidge. I like that better. Now, what the heck are we going to do with all this? If anybody has any ideas, just put their hands up. I think what we should do, I want you to use heavy pressure, and I just want you to start shading in some of these feather markings that look like triangles and whatnot, and we'll just be, you know, random, but pay attention and don't get carried away because we've already shaded his white body. So maybe the smart thing to do would be to put in our border here to make sure that we don't go too far down his body with our shading and then get screwed up, and we end up putting dark feathers along his white tummy, which we don't want to do. You know, it's not for a bird book, you guys. It's just for the fridge. So be random. Actually, I'm proud of myself for even thinking in terms of randomness with this, because even a year ago, my brain would be throbbing if I had to look at this pattern, because it's such a challenge for me to just interpret broadly what a pattern is and then just duplicate it. I would be stuck on doing every single little itty bitty feather. So if that's what your brain is asking you to do, I completely understand and I get it. Same. Very, very, very tough for me just to, because I'm just so detail oriented, to sort of do something that's a general pattern or give an impression of something. Ouch. If we keep our markings small near the top of his back, it does give the impression that we're looking at things kind of like at an like a surface, right? Kind of closer to a flat surface, whereas the curve of his body here, we're able to see more of the little details. We're seeing the feathers broader on, right? Do your best. The other thing that's so funny about the yoga, well, not funny, but it's like so bang on, is like she goes, your version. So she does the proper pose, which I could never do. And then she goes, your version might have your toe on the ground. So it's the same. Your version of this little shorebird. It's what we're after. Are you leaving like nice white spaces between your little V's and stuff? Because he does have quite a bit of the white at the tips of some of the feathers. And then just, we're going to go small. Just as long as they're not all the same, that's kind of a good enough. Fill them in. And it's okay if the border, if you've just made it all kind of like a little messy. But what I would like you to do on some of the feathers, just clean up some of the edges, because since they're more visible, we are able to see the proper detail in the markings. Gosh, with the way he started out, he's like, it's not that bad. Okay, now, like one thing leads to another. If you're happy with the size of the head, make sure you're happy with the body, because now the body might be too small to match the head, which I feel is in my case. So what I want to do is I want to bump his lower back out a little bit, and I just want to bring up the markings at the top of his shoulder. So I would like you to go back, just look at it critically, see if you need to give him, and it's okay if you don't want to. It just means that his head is up more than what's in the picture, right? I mean, the stance that you've drawn doesn't have to be, trust me, exactly like what's going on in the photo. I mean, how often has that happened for me? Probably never in the whole history of the channel. But because of the way we're doing the markings for the feathers, it's kind of like a simple thing to bump out his back if you want to change any of the angles. How's your little birdie look? Would you like to spend 4 hours drawing the water? I think I heard a hard no on that one. Okay, did you give him, so a couple of things. Does he have nice skinny little legs? And we need knobby knees. I didn't even think about what we're going to do for the water. I didn't think about what we were going to do with the back. Anyway, okay. So this, I would like you to sort of work on this shading right here, because they do all, these are all the bum feathers that just boom come right at the back of the body. So we want to show that he does kind of like come to an abrupt stop at his bum. So if you could just carefully work on that shading there. And very, very little shading under here where he's flat. Don't go nuts, because we do want to show that he's still got a white tummy. This is too heavy here because I wasn't happy with the first angle that I did for his body, the curve, so I pushed it out a little bit more. I guess we could darken the bill a little bit. And it should be nice and maybe like dark and a little bit more narrow than what I've done. I'll take this back into his face, but don't shade the... Okay, he's not too bad. So what we do need to do, see this is all the top of his back, and it's bumping into the feathers of his neck. So this see, we could do a little bit more work on this. We want to make sure that we are showing how his these feathers are bumping into each other. We can do that by, and if you want to, I'm going to thicken his neck just a smidge right here. I still like this sharp angle down. I don't want to lose that, but I do want to thicken that just a little bit there. With a little bit of shading as well. And then with the shading off the cheek. So now I'm just using very, very light pressure to sort of put down a little bit of shading where we've got the tan. Mixed in with the dark brown. Only doing the tan so that it still shows that he's got his white markings on his face. And we could do, just don't go nuts, but if we use light pressure, this as well, like I just want to keep taking this up a little bit more. And then I want to put in a little bit of shading because it's the white for the feather tips is what we see a little bit, and we can shade in here for the tan. And if some of your feather tip, like if you need to do more chocolate or more of the dark brown on his back, if it's not heavy enough, and then let's put in some light shading where this tan is. And then the white. I have no idea what to do for the water. And too bad that this is so heavy, but anyway, so let's maybe just, you know, with the way we draw branches, it's going to look like a it's going to look like a branch, but we got to give them something to stand in. So just use really light pressure with all the reflection. There. We're not drawing the stone. Well, I'm not. Well, what do you think? Did your I'm surprisingly shocked at how well this turned out. Because if you go back to the beginning of the video, I know you'll have questioned it as much as me. I would like to just give him a little bit more character around the face. But I think we're pretty much done. Now I feel I'm kind of just like working on the thumbnail. It's like I've told you before, once I finish sketching with you guys, I can't make any more changes. So if I don't have a cute looking thumbnail, I'm not going to be attracting more people like you guys. He does kind of have more of these bands around his eye, but that's okay. This will do. Better stop while I'm ahead. So, have a fabulous, maybe I will see you one more time before Christmas. Would be nice. But if you're busy and you can't come back, have a lovely holiday. And as always, thanks for your company, and I'll see you next time.